Chapter 3, Saturday, August 13th, 1977. In one of the third-floor guest bedrooms of the Edison house, Paul Annandale arranged his shaving gear on top of the dresser. From left to right, a can of foam, a mug containing a leather brush, a straight razor in a plastic safety case, a dispenser full of razor blades, a styptic pencil, a bottle of skin conditioner, and a bottle of aftershave lotion. Those 7 items had been arranged in such an orderly fashion that they looked as if they belonged in one of those animated cartoons in which everyday items come to life and march across like soldiers. He turned from the dresser and went to one of the 2 large windows. In the distance, the mountains rose above the valley walls, majestic and green, mottled by purple shadows from a few passing clouds. The nearer ridges, decorated with stands of pines, scattered elms and meadows, sloped gently towards the town. On the far side of Main Street, birch trees rustled in the breeze. Men in short-sleeved shirts and women in creased summer dresses strolled along the sidewalk. The veranda roof and the sign for Edison's store were directly below the window. As his gaze moved back and forth from the distant mountains, Paul became aware of his own reflection in the window glass. At 5'10" and 150 pounds, he was neither tall nor short, heavy nor thin. In some ways he looked older than 38, and in other ways he looked younger. His crinkly, almost frizzy light brown hair was worn full on the sides but not too long. It was a hairstyle more suited to a younger man, but it looked good on him. His eyes were so blue that they might have been chips of mirror reflecting the sky above. The expression of pain and loss lying beneath the surface brightness of those eyes belonged to a much older man. His features were narrow, somewhat aristocratic, but a deep tan softened the sharp angles of his face and saved him from a haunting look. He appeared to be a man who would feel at ease both in an elegant drawing room and in a waterfront bar. He was wearing a blue work shirt, blue jeans, and black square-toed boots. However, he did not seem to be casually dressed. Indeed, in spite of the jeans, there was an air of formality about his outfit. He wore those clothes better than most men wore tuxedos. The sleeves of his shirt had been carefully pressed and creased. His open collar stood up straight and stiff, as if it had been starched. The silvery buckle on his belt had been carefully polished. Like his shirt, his jeans seemed to have been tailored. His low-heeled boots shone almost like patent leather. He had always been compulsively neat. He couldn't remember a time when his friends hadn't kidded him about it. As a child, he had kept his toy box in better order than his mother had kept the china closet. 3.5 years ago, after Annie died and left him with the children, his need for order and neatness had become almost neurotic. On a Wednesday afternoon, 10 months after the funeral, when he caught himself rearranging the contents of a cabinet in his veterinary clinic for the 7th time in 2 hours, he realized that his compulsion for neatness would become a refuge from life, and especially from grief. Alone in the clinic, standing before an array of instruments, forceps, syringes, scalpels, he cried for the first time since he learned Annie was dead, under the misguided belief that he had to hide his grief from the children in order to provide them with exemplary strength. He had never given vent to the powerful emotions that the loss of his wife had engendered. Now he cried, shook, and raged at the cruelty of it. He rarely used foul language, but now he strung together all the vile words and phrases that he knew, cursing God and the universe and life and himself. After that, his compulsive neatness ceased to be a neurosis and became again just another facet of his character, which frustrated some people and charmed others. Someone knocked on the bedroom door. He turned away from the window. "Come in." Raya opened the door. "It's 7 o'clock, Daddy. Supper time." In faded red jeans and a short-sleeved white sweater, with her dark hair falling past her shoulders, she looked startlingly like her mother. She tilted her head to one side, just as Annie used to do, as if trying to guess what he was thinking. "Is Mark ready?" "Oh," she said. "He was ready an hour ago. He's in the kitchen getting in Sam's way." "Then we'd better get down there, knowing Mark's appetite. I say he has half the food eaten already." As he came towards her, he stepped back a pace. "You look absolutely marvellous, Daddy." He smiled at her and slightly pinched her cheeks. If she had been complimenting Mark, she would have said that he looked super, but she wanted him to know that she was judging him by grown-up standards, and she had used grown-up language. "You really think so?" he asked. "Jenny won't be able to resist you," she said. He made a face at her. "It's true," Raya said. "What makes you think I care whether or not Jenny can resist me?" Her expression said he should stop treating her as a child. "When Jenny came down to Boston in March, you were altogether different." "Different from what?" "Different from the way you usually are. For 2 whole weeks," she said, "when you came home from the clinic, you didn't once grump about sick poodles and Siamese cats. Well, that's because the only patients I had for those 2 weeks were elephants and giraffes. Oh, Daddy, and a pregnant kangaroo. Raya sat on the bed. Are you going to ask her to marry you? The kangaroo? She grinned, partly at the joke and partly at the way he was trying to evade the question. I'm not sure I'll like a kangaroo for a mother, she said. But if the baby is yours, you're going to have to marry her if you want to do the right thing. I swear it's not mine, he said. I'm not romantically inclined towards kangaroos. Towards Jenny, she asked. Whether or not I'm attracted to her, the important question is whether Jenny likes me. You don't know? Raya asked. Well, I'll find out for you. Teasing her, he said, how will you do that? Ask her. And make me look like Miles Standish. Oh no, she said. I'll be subtle about it. She got up from the bed and went to the door. Mark must have eaten 3/4 of the food by now. Raya, she looked at him. Do you like Jenny? She grinned. Oh, very much. For 7 years since Mark was 2 and Rifle, the Annandales had been taking their summer vacation in the mountains above Black River. Paul wanted to communicate to his children his own love of wild places and wild things. During these 4 and 6 weeks vacation, he educated them in the ways of nature so that they might know the satisfaction of being in harmony with it. This was a joyous education, and they looked forward to each outing. The year that Annie died, he almost cancelled the trip. At first, it had seemed to him that going without her would only make their losses more evident. Raya had convinced him otherwise. It's like Mummy's still in this house, Raya had said. When I go from one room to another, I expect to find her there, all the pale and drawn like she was near the end. If we go camping up beyond Black River, I guess maybe I'll expect to see her in the woods too, but at least I won't expect to see her pale and drawn. When we went to Black River, she was so pretty and healthy, and she was always so happy. When we were out in the forest because of Raya, they took their vacation as usual that year, and it proved to be the best thing they could have done. The first year that he and Annie took the children to Black River, they brought their dry goods and supplies at Edison General Store. Mark and Raya had fallen in love with Sam Edison the day they met. Annie and Paul came under his spell nearly as quickly. By the end of their 4-week vacation, they had come down from the mountain twice to have dinner at Edison, and when they left for home, they had promised to keep in touch with an occasional letter. The following year, Sam told them that they were not to go up into the mountains to set up camp for the long, tiring drive from Boston. Instead, he insisted they spend the night at his place and get a fresh start in the morning. The first night stopover had become this yearly routine. By now, Sam was like a grandfather to Raya and Mark. For the past 2 years, Paul had brought the children north to spend Christmas Eve at Edison's. Paul had met Jenny Edison just last year. Of course, Sam had mentioned his daughter many times. She had gone to Columbia and majored in music. In her senior year, she married a musician and moved to California, where he was playing in a band. But after more than 7 years, the marriage had turned sour, and she had come home to get her wits about her and to decide what she wanted to do next. As proud a father as he had been, Sam had never shown pictures of her. This was not his style. On the first day in Black River last year, walking into Edison where she was waiting on children at the candy counter and catching sight of her, Paul had for a moment been unable to get his breath. It happened that quickly between them. Not love at first sight, something more fundamental than love, something more basic that had to come first before love could develop. Instinctively, intuitively, even though he had been certain there could be no one after Annie, he had known that she was right for him. Jenny felt the attraction too, powerfully, immediately, but almost unwillingly. If he had told all of this to Raya, she would have said, so why aren't you married, if life were only that simple? After dinner, while Sam and the children washed the dishes, Paul and Jenny retired to the den. They propped their feet up on an antique wood-carver bench, and he put his arms around her shoulder. Their conversation had been free and easy at the table, but now it was stilted. She was hard and angular under his arm, tense. Twice he leaned over and kissed her gently on the corner of the mouth, but she remained still and cool. He decided that she was inhibited by the possibility that Raya or Mark or her father might walk into the room at any moment, and he suggested that they take a drive. I don't know. He stood up. Come on. Some fresh night air will be good for you. Outside the night was chilly. As they got in the car, she said, we almost need the heater. Not at all, he said. Just snuggle up and share body heat. He grinned at her. Where to? I know a nice, quiet little bar in Bexford. I thought we were staying out of public places. They don't have the flu in Bexford, she said. They don't. It's only 30 miles down the road, she shrugged. That's just one of the curiosities of this plague. He put the car in gear and drove out into the street. So be it. A quiet little bar in Bexford. She found an all-night Canadian radio station playing American swing music from the 1940s. No more talk for a while, she said. She sat close to him with her head against his shoulder. The drive from Black River to Bexford was a pleasant one. The narrow blacktop road rose and fell and twisted gracefully through the lightness, leafy countryside for miles at a time. Trees arched across the roadway, forming a tunnel of cool night air. After a while, in spite of the Benny Goodman music, Paul felt that they were the only two people in the world, and that was a surprisingly agreeable thought. She was even lovelier than the mountain night, and as mysterious in her silence as some of the deep, unsettled northern hollows through which they passed. For such a slender woman, she had great presence. She took up very little space on the seat, and yet she seemed to dominate the car and overwhelm him. Her eyes, so large and dark, were closed, yet he felt as if she were watching him. Her face, too beautiful to appear in vogue, she would have made the other models in the magazine look like horses, was in repose. Her full lips were slightly parted as she sang softly with the music, and this bit of animation, this parting of the lips, had more sensual impact than a heavy-eyed, full-faced leer from Elizabeth Taylor. As she leaned against him, her dark hair fanned across her shoulder, and her scent, clean and soapy, rose to him. In Bexford, he parked across the street from the tavern. She switched off the radio and kissed him once, quickly, as a sister might. "You're a nice man." "What did I do? I didn't want to talk, and you didn't make me." "It wasn't any hardship," she said. "You and me, we communicate with silence as well as with words. Hadn't you noticed?" She smiled. "I've noticed. But maybe you don't put enough value on that. Not as much as you should." "I put a great deal of value on it," she said. "Jenny, what we have is—" She put one hand on his lips. "I don't mean for the conversation to take a serious turn," she said. "But I think we should talk seriously. We're long overdue for that." "No," she said. "I don't want to talk about us, not seriously. And because you're such a nice man, you're going to do what I want." She kissed him again, opened the door, and got out of the car. The tavern was a warm, cosy place. There was a rustic bar along the left-hand wall, about 15 tables in the centre of the room, and a row of maroon leatherette booths along the right wall. The shelves behind the bar were lit with soft blue bulbs. Each of the tables in the centre of the room held a tall candle in a red glass lantern, and an imitation stained-glass Tiffany lamp hung over each of the booths. The jukebox was playing a soulful country ballad by Charlie Rich. The bartender, a heavy-set man with a walrus moustache, joked continuously with the customers, without trying for it, without being aware of it. He sounded like W.C. Fields. There were 4 men at the bar, half a dozen couple at their tables, and other couples in the booths. The last booth was open, and they took it. When they ordered and received their drinks from a perky red-headed waitress, Scotch for him and a dry vodka martini for her, Paul said, "Why don't you come up and spend a few days with us at camp? We have an extra sleeping bag." "I'd like that," she said. "When?" "Maybe next week." "I'll tell the kids. Once they expected you, you won't be able to back out of it." She laughed. "Those two are something else," she said. "How true. So you know what Raya said to me when she was helping me pour coffee after dinner?" Jenny took a sip from a drink. "She asked if I had divorced my first husband because he was a lousy lover." "Oh no, she didn't really." "Oh yes, she did. I know that girl's only 11, but sometimes I wonder." "Reincarnation?" Jenny asked. "Maybe that's it. She's only 11 years old in this life, but maybe she lived to be 70 in another life." "What did you say to her when she asked?" Jenny shook her head as if she were amazed at her gullibility. Her black hair swung away from her face. "Well, when she saw that I was about to tell her it was none of her business whether or not my first husband was a lousy lover, she told me I mustn't be cross with her. She said she wasn't just being nosy. She said she was just a growing girl, a bit mature for her age, who had a perfectly understandable curiosity about humans, love and marriage. Then she really began to con me." Paul grimaced. "I can tell you the line she used. Poor little orphan girl, confused by her own pubescence, bewildered by a new set of emotions and body chemistry. So she's used it on you many times, and you fell for it." "Everyone falls for it." "I sure did." "I felt so sorry for her. She had 100 questions, all of them intimate," Paul said, "and I answered all of them. And then I found out the whole conversation was meant to lead up to one line. After she had learned more about my husband than she could ever want to know, she told me that she and her mother had long talks a year or so before Annie died, and that her mother told her, "You were just a fantastic lover." Paul groaned. I said to Raya, "I believe you're trying to sell your father to me." She got indignant and said that was a terrible thing to think. I said, "Well, I can't believe that your mother ever said anything of the sort to you. How old would you have been then? 6? And she said, 6, that's right. But even when I was 6, I was very mature for my age." When he was done laughing, Paul said, "Well, you can't blame her. She's only playing the matchmaker because she likes you. So does Mark." He leaned forward and lowered his voice slightly. "So do I." She looked down at her drink. "Read any good books lately?" He stirred his scotch and sighed. "Since I'm such a nice man, I was supposed to let you change the subject that easily." "That's right." Jenny Lee Edison distrusted romance and feared marriage. Her ex-husband, whose name she had gladly surrendered, was one of those men who despise education, work, and sacrifice, but who nonetheless think they deserve fame and fortune because year after year achieved neither goal. He needed some excuse for failure. She made a good one. He said he hadn't been able to put together a successful band because of her. He hadn't been able to get a recording contract with a major company because of her. She was holding him back. He said, she was getting in his way, he said. After 7 years of supporting him by playing cocktail bar piano, she suggested that they would both be happy if the marriage were dissolved. At first he accused her of deserting him, and then he threatened to kill her if she left. She divorced him. Love and romance aren't enough to make a marriage work. She had once told Paul, "You need something else. Maybe it's respect. Until I do know what it is, I'm in no hurry to get back to the altar." Like the nice man that he was, he had changed the subject at her request. They were talking about music when Bob and Emma Thorpe came to the booth and said hello. Bob Thorpe was chief of the four-man police force in Black River. Ordinarily, a town so small would have boasted no more than a single constable, but in Black River, more than a constable was needed to maintain order when the logging campmen came into town for the relaxation. Therefore, big union supply company paid for the four-man force. Bob was 6'2", 200-pound ex-PM with martial arts training. With his square face, deep-set eyes, and low forehead, he looked both dangerous and dim-witted. He could be dangerous, but he was not stupid. He wrote an amusing column for Black River's weekly newspaper, and the quality of thought and language in those pieces would have been a credit to any big city newspaper's editorial page. This combination of brute strength and unexpected intelligence made Bob a match even for lumbermen much bigger than he was. At 35, Emma Thorpe was still the prettiest woman in Black River. She was a green-eyed blonde with a spectacular figure, a combination of beauty and sex appeal that had gotten her into the finals of the Miss USA contest 10 years ago. This achievement made her Black River's only genuine celebrity. Her son Jeremy was the same age as Mark. Jeremy stayed at the Annandale camp for a few days every year. Mark valued him as a playmate, but valued him more because his mother was Emma. Mark was deeply in puppy love with Emma and mooned around her every chance he got. "Are you here on vacation?" Bob asked. "Just in this afternoon." Jenny asked. "Well, I would ask you to sit down, but Paul's trying to keep an arm's length from everyone who has the flu. If he picked it up, he's just pass it on to the kids." "It's nothing serious," Bob said. "Not the flu, really. Just night chills." "Maybe you can live with them," Emma said, "but I think they're pretty serious. I haven't had a good sleep all week." "They aren't just night chills. I tried to take a nap this afternoon and I woke up shaking and sweating." Paul said, "You both look very good." "I tell you," Bob said, "it's nothing serious. Night chills. My grandmother used to complain of them." "Your grandmother complained of everything," Emma said. "Night chills, rheumatitis, the ague, the hot flashes." Paul hesitated, a smile, and said, "Oh, hell, sit down. Let me buy you a drink." Glancing at his watch, Bob said, "Thanks, but we really can't. They have a poker game in the back room here every Saturday night. Emma and I usually play. They're expecting us." "You play, Emma?" Jenny asked. "Bob, better than Bob does," Emma said. "Last time he lost $50 and I won 32. Bob grinned at his wife and said, "Tell the truth now. It's not so much skill, it's just that when you're playing, most of them men don't spend enough time looking at their cards." Emma touched the low-cut neckline of her sweater. "Well, but bluffing is an important part of good poker playing. If the damn fools can be bluffed by some cleavage, then they just don't play as well as I do." On the way home, 10 miles out of Bexford, Paul started to turn off the blacktop road into a scenic overlook that was a favourite lover's lane. "Please don't stop," Jenny said. "Why not?" "I want you." He put the car in park half on the road, half off, and there's a reason not to stop. She avoided looking at him. I want you, but you aren't the kind of man that can be satisfied with just the sex. You want something more from me. It's got to be a deeper commitment with you. Love, emotion, caring. I'm not up to that part of it. Cupping her chin in his hands, he gently turned her face to him. When you were down to Boston in March, you were very changeable. One moment you thought we could make it together, and the next moment you thought we couldn't. But then the last few days, just before you went home, you seemed to have made up your mind. You said that we were right for each other, that you just needed a little more time. He proposed to her last Christmas. Ever since in bed and out, he had been trying to convince her that they were two halves of an organism, that neither of them could be whole without the other. In March, he thought he had made some headway. Now he said, "You changed your mind again." She took his hand from her chin and kissed the palm. "I've got to be sure. I'm not like your husband," he said. "I know you're not. You're a very nice man," he said. He asked, "I need more time." "How much more?" "I don't know." He studied for a moment, then put the car in gear and drove back into the blacktop. He switched on the radio. A few minutes later, she asked, "Are you angry?" "No, just disappointed." "You're too positive about us," she said. "You should be more careful. You should have some doubts like I do." "I have no doubts," he said. "We're right for each other." "But you should have doubts," she said. "For instance, doesn't it seem odd to you that I'm such a physical match for your first wife, for Annie? She was the same build as I am, the same size. She had the same colour hair, the same eyes. I see those photographs of her." He was a little upset by that. "Do you think I've fallen for you only because you remind me of her? You loved her a great deal. Had nothing to do with that. Has nothing to do with it. I just like sexy dark women." He smiled, trying to make a joke of it, but to convince her and to stop himself from wondering if she was at least partly right, she said, "Maybe." "Damn it, there's no maybe about it. I love you because you're you, not because you're like anyone else." They rode in silence. The eyes of several deer glittered in the brush at the side of the road. When the car passed, the herd moved. Paul caught a glimpse of them in the rearview mirror, graceful, ghostly figures as they crossed the pavement. As last Jenny said, "You're so sure we're meant for each other." "Maybe we are under the right circumstances, but Paul, all we've ever shared is good times. We've never known adversity together. We've never shared a painful experience. Marriage is full of big and little crises. My husband and I were fairly good together too, until the crisis came. Then we were at each other's throats. I just can't. I won't gamble my future on a relationship that's never been tested with hard times. Should I stop praying for sickness, financial ruin, and bad luck?" She sighed and leaned against him. "You make me sound foolish." "I don't mean to, I know." Back in Black River, they shared one kiss and went to separate rooms to lie awake most of the night. Thanks for listening.